Hi, and welcome to my kitchen. My name is Doug, and today on Happy Healthy Living, we're going to make a pastry that I have loved since I was a little boy. It's called a Napoleon. Now, this recipe is very simple to make. I'm going to show you a couple of shortcuts, and I hope you really try the recipe and enjoy it. It tastes delicious and it looks great. So, stay tuned. Okay, and welcome back. So let's go through all the ingredients you're going to need to make our delicious Napoleon. Now, once again, as I stated before, I love Napoleons. I've loved them since I was a little boy. And they're definitely something you can find in a French cafe, a French bakery. And I'm going to show you today this recipe that it's pretty simple. It's not that hard. And like I said before, a couple of shortcuts. So what are we going to need? Well, first of all, you're going to need some powdered sugar. We're also going to need some whole milk, heavy whipping cream, chocolate syrup. We're going to need instant vanilla pudding. And this is so important, puff pastry. Now we're going to be using one puff pastry sheet from here. This is Pepperidge Farms brand, Pepperidge Farm. And we're going to be using one sheet from this. Now you have to thaw this. This needs to be thawed for around 30 to 40 minutes first. And then we're going to bake it. I'm going to show you exactly how to unfold it and bake it, and a couple of tricks to make sure that it doesn't get too puffy. And then we'll go from there. So stay tuned. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with our pudding mix. Now we're going to make this vanilla pudding, and we're also going to mix it later on with whipping cream, heavy whipping cream. And that's going to make sort of like our pastry cream. So I showed you in my Easter torte video how to make pastry cream. This is the shortcut. So we're going to do that shortcut today. So I'm just following the directions for my instant vanilla pudding mix. I'm using the Jello brand. And what we're going to need is just 2 cups of cold milk. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a whisk. And we're just going to stir that up for around 2 minutes. It's been almost 2 minutes, and a couple of things. Make sure that you have, when you have a bowl, make sure you put like a towel underneath it. This way it doesn't go clank, clank, clank and stays in one place. And you can see that our pudding is starting to thicken up, and that's what you want. Okay, it's been about 2 minutes. Now you get to put this in the refrigerator for 5. Okay, so our next step is we're going to make the whipping cream that goes with the vanilla pudding. And I'm using 1 cup of heavy whipping cream. Now I'm not going to add any sugar or any flavoring to this because the vanilla pudding, the instant vanilla pudding, already has that. And it's already sweet enough. If anything, this is going to make it a little less sweet. Okay, because we're going to be mixing this whipping cream with the vanilla pudding. So we're just going to whip this up, just like you would whipped cream. Now we're going to whip this up until we have soft peaks. Okay, that looks like it's done. So you can see it has these soft peaks. So you want to do it for about close to 2 minutes. And when you see those soft peaks, then you know it's done. Make sure that it is on a high speed too. All right, so we have our whipping cream done. We have our vanilla pudding done. So I'm going to put these both in the refrigerator. Now the vanilla pudding only takes 5 minutes for it to be ready to go, but we're just going to leave it in there longer because we're still waiting for our pastry sheets to defrost, or to thaw out, I should say. And so anyway, we're going to continue that, and then I'm going to poke holes into my pastry sheet. This is going to prevent it from puffing up too much. And we're going to do that, and then we'll bake it in the oven at 400 degrees for around 15 minutes. And then we'll take it out, let it cool completely, and then we're going to cut it into 3 rectangles. And then we're going to start making our Napoleon. So stay tuned. Okay, welcome back. So my oven is preheating to 400 degrees, and my puff pastry has been sitting out, thawing out for close to 30 minutes now. You really want to do it between 30 and 40, but we're going to take a look at it, see if it's ready. Now, one thing about these puff pastry sheets, they come with this paper. This is like, not wax paper, but parchment paper. And it just helps when you're flipping it. So you can see this is already thawing out. I still think it has a little bit more to go, but I'm going to already open it up using that paper to help me, because you want to be very gentle. All right. So that's why those sheets are in there. Now, using a skewer, you can use a skewer or toothpicks. I prefer a skewer because it's longer. It's just easier to work with, I think. We're going to be poking holes in our puff pastry sheet. This is going to help it not puff up so much, because we don't want it puffing up too much. So I'm just basically going to make a bunch of holes with my skewer, and that's all it is. So once our oven has preheated to 400 degrees, I'm going to put this in the oven, bake it at 400 degrees for 15 minutes. 12 to 15 minutes. You want to check on it until it's nice and golden. And then we'll take it out, and we have to let it cool completely before we start to cut it and start arranging our Napoleon. Stay tuned. Okay, so we just took out our puff pastry, so we have to let that cool completely before we start to cut it. But while we're doing that, we are going to make the icing for the top. Now, this is how you're going to make the icing. We're going to use 1 cup of powdered sugar. Okay, so I got my 1 cup of powdered sugar. And we're going to add 1 to 2 tablespoons of cold milk. Now, one thing you don't want your icing to be too runny. It's very important that it is thick enough to go on the Napoleon and to hold its shape. We're going to add just a few drops of lemon juice. Remember, you don't want too much liquid, so I'm just squeezing just a couple of drops of lemon juice. And then I'm going to start to use my whisk and just mix that together to get my icing. So now with a large metal spoon, I'm going to continue to stir. And you can see right now, see how thick that is? That looks like, to me, a good consistency. The few drops of lemon juice is going to make it not so sweet. Add a little freshness to it. That looks really good. Let me give it a little taste. Really good. All right, so we have our icing done. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make our pastry cream. Okay, so I have my vanilla pudding, and you can see how thick it is. I'm transferring it right now to a larger bowl, and this is our shortcut to making pastry cream. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my whipped cream, and I'm just going to fold it into the pudding. So just fold it in. This is how you fold it in. And this is going to make it lighter and also take away some of that sweetness, so it's not so sweet. You add more whipped cream. So this is our little shortcut on how to make pastry cream. And you can see what a change in that consistency. It's not as thick. It still has a good consistency, but it's not as thick as the vanilla pudding. And it's lighter in color. And of course, we got to give it a taste. Very nice. Now I'm going to actually put this back in the refrigerator until our puff pastry is completely cooled. And then we're going to assemble it. Stay tuned. Okay, so it's been around 15 minutes for a puff pastry to cool. And if you have a cooling rack, I highly suggest that once you take it out of the oven, you put it on a cooling rack. It'll cool a little bit faster that way than just leaving it on the tray. Because the tray will still be hot and it'll still be cooking or baking. So here's our puff pastry. As you can see, it's a beautiful color. And I'm putting it on this board here. And what we want to do, I'm using a pastry cutter or a pizza cutter. And we're going to cut this into 3 long rectangles. It already has these indentations in it, like for us to cut it. So it makes it a little bit easier that way. But then we're also going to cut it horizontal. Now, if you wanted to have one large Napoleon, you could do that too. But I like it making it a little bit smaller. All right, so we're going to start to cut it. I'm going to start in the middle. And notice us poking those holes really helped keep the pastry not so puffy. All right, it's still a little puffy and that's okay, but we don't want it too puffy. All right, so I'm going to continue again. And having the correct tools just makes it so much easier. All right, so we have our 3 sections. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just cut this in half. I'm eyeballing it. Actually, let me do this. I'm going to start here because I do want them to be approximately the same. Very nice. So as you can see, these are going to give really nice size Napoleons. So this is going to actually give us 2 Napoleons. And the reason why is because we are going to layer it 3 times like that. It's going to be stacked. So it's going to give us 2 Napoleons. All right. So here we go. Let me get the pastry cream and we're going to start assembling it. Stay tuned. Okay, so what we want to do is with our Napoleon, we are going to find, we're going to use the back side of one because it's a flat side. That's what we want on top. So I'm going to flip one over, and actually I'm going to flip this one over because it's the thinnest one. And then I'm going to start building my Napoleon. So the one you flip over, the flat side, that's what you want for your very top. Okay. So now let's start making our Napoleon. And I have my pastry cream here. And I'm just going to put pastry cream on top of one of the layers. Just add a nice amount. You don't want to put too much because you don't want it oozing out. But you do want it to go to the very edge. Okay. So that looks good. Now let me add my next layer. And I'm going to flip that over so I have a nice side. Press down just gently. And then add another layer of the pastry cream. Remember, not too much, because when we press down, we don't want it oozing out so much. Very nice. and then the top layer. Now you want to pay attention to your layer. As you can see, hopefully you can see, that this has a little bit more of the dough here than it does here. So I'm going to eyeball, and I can see that my Napoleon is slanting just slightly down. So where I have more dough is that's where I'm going to place it. So it kind of it makes it look like it's more even. All right, I'm going to press down just a little bit. With a knife, I'm going to take off any extra, pastry cream that might be oozing out. Perfect. It's looking really good. And now I want to put my icing on. And don't forget, your icing does need to be thick. This is a good consistency on the icing. And then we're just going to gently, using an offset spatula, to spread it on the top. You want to go slowly, gently. So you're learning all the tricks today. All the little shortcuts. Now when you put that icing on, make sure it's nice and even. Okay, what I'm going to do now with two knives is I'm going to push it just gently together in case anything moved, because we want it as nice as possible. Perfect. Now I'm going to show you up close how to do the feathering. Very important. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do the feathering. Now the feathering is important. What we want to do with our syrup, we always want to test out our syrup first. Now I can see it's kind of drippy. Now one thing I suggest you do is keep your syrup in the refrigerator so it gets a little hard. Let me test it right here. So you can see it's going to come out kind of thick. So that's important. So I'm kind of glad I saw this ahead of time. If that happens to you, what I suggest you do, if you have these little bottles, that you place some syrup in a little bottle. And then when you squeeze this out, it's going to have a nicer line, because then it's going to be too thick and it's going to run. It's not going to look good. So you watch. Wow, you can really see the difference. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to do some horizontal lines, and then I'm going to show you how to do the feathering. Now, if you get off there, don't worry about it. You can just touch it up. Okay, I think that's good. I'm going to do 3 rows. Now watch what I do. Actually, let's do 1 row up here and 1 row down here. So I'm going to do a total of 5. Okay, so we're going to get our skewer, and I'm going to drag it this way. I'm going to go the opposite way, and then I'm going to go down this way, and then the opposite way. Okay, so now you can see the feathering effect. Hopefully you can see that. And it looks so pretty, and that is a Napoleon, folks. Okay, so it is done. Now, very important that you chill your Napoleons before you serve them. So put them in the refrigerator. Let them stay in the refrigerator for at least 30 minutes. And you want it nice, but it looks so pretty. On this one that I just did, I only did 4 lines instead of 5, which I kind of like the 4 lines better. You could do it however you want. Another thing to be aware of, this is how much pastry cream is left. So if you have a lot of pastry cream, you can use it for another cake. You can make more Napoleons. You could just eat it like that by itself. It's just basically vanilla pudding with whipped cream. So you could use it for another dessert. The icing was just enough. I have just a little bit, very little bit left. So that was a perfect amount. So you won't have for two here, you won't have any extra icing left. So that's really great. Also, super important to get a little squeeze bottle. I thought, you know, maybe that it would be okay using this, but not really. Now, if you make your own chocolate syrup, you could do that too, and then put it in a squeeze bottle. But I just find it easier to use Hershey syrup, chocolate flavor. It's just easier. And put it in a little squeeze bottle so you could get a nice line. So don't use it straight from here because it'll be too thick. All right, so we're gonna put these in the refrigerator, wait about 30 minutes, and then we're gonna have a taste test, so stay tuned. Okay, so we are ready for a taste test. I cannot wait. Hear that crunch? Mmm. Mmm. Excellent. Just like a real Napoleon from a French bakery. So, so good. Thank you so much for joining us today on Happy Healthy Living with Yvonne Douglas. Remember, if you want that homey vibe, you need to subscribe, and please give this video a like. Until next time, my friends, happy healthy living. Bye-bye.